The recruitment hall on Kepler Station buzzed with anticipation. Hundreds of species from across the galaxy had gathered for the annual military draft, where the best and brightest would be selected to join the Galactic Defense Force. The air shimmered with translator fields, converting alien chittering, roaring, and melodic tones into coherent speech. Commander Vex 9 of the Centaurian Empire stood at his observation deck, 8 eyes scanning the crowd below with practiced disdain. His crystalline carapace gleamed under the harsh station lights as he reviewed his data pad. The candidates looked promising this cycle, mostly. Towering Gorvac warriors flexed their forearms menacingly. Sleek Nixian pilots demonstrated their reflexes with holographic simulations. Even the aquatic Malori had sent their finest bioengineers. Then there were the humans. Vex 9's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his kind. The humans huddled together in their corner, looking thoroughly out of place among the galactic elite. Their species had only been spacefaring for 2 centuries, a blink of an eye in cosmic terms. They possessed no natural armor, no enhanced reflexes, no telepathic abilities, no extra limbs for multitasking. Just soft pink flesh, basic sensory organs, and an annoying tendency to ask too many questions. Sir, his aide, Krill 44, approached with another datapad. The human delegation has submitted their candidates. Vex 9 accepted the device, scrolling through the pathetic roster. Most were exactly what he expected: young, eager, and utterly inadequate. But one entry made him pause. Marcus Kane, age 37, former cargo hauler, no military experience, no advanced education, no special qualifications whatsoever. This is their best? Vex 9's voice carried a note of incredulous laughter. A middle-aged freight jockey? Apparently, sir. The human representative, Admiral Torres, seems quite insistent that Kane be given a fair evaluation. Vex 9's 8 eyes rolled in perfect synchronization. Oh, I'll give him an evaluation, all right. Send him to Testing Bay 7. Let's get this farce over with. Down in the human section, Marcus Kane tried not to fidget as his name was called. He'd known this was a long shot when Admiral Torres had approached him 6 months ago. The old woman had seemed desperate, scraping together anyone willing to take the draft. Most of Earth's actual military personnel were tied up in territorial disputes with the Mars colonies. That left? Well, that left people like him. Good luck, Kane, whispered Sarah Mitchell, one of the few legitimate candidates in their group. Try not to embarrass our entire species. Marcus managed a wry smile. No pressure at all, thanks. The testing bay was a sterile white chamber filled with holographic projectors and sensor arrays. As Marcus stepped inside, the walls shimmered, and suddenly he was standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a starship. Red lights flashed ominously, and the sound of hull breaches echoed through the simulation. Candidate Kane, Vex 9's voice boomed from hidden speakers. You are the commanding officer of a light cruiser under attack by superior forces. Your shields are failing, weapons are offline, and you have civilians aboard. What is your course of action? Marcus looked around the simulated bridge, taking in the tactical displays and damage reports. The standard protocols were obvious. Call for reinforcements, attempt an orderly retreat, evacuate non-essential personnel. Any competent officer would know the textbook responses. Instead, Marcus walked over to the engineering console and began typing commands. Interesting, he muttered to himself. The plasma conduits are still functional, just rerouted for safety protocols. His fingers danced across the controls with surprising confidence. And look at that! The cargo bay's magnetic containment system is still online. In the observation booth, Vex-9 watched with growing confusion as the human completely ignored standard military doctrine. Instead of attempting retreat or calling for backup, Kane was he seriously trying to jury-rig a weapon out of cargo equipment? "What is he doing?" Krill 44 asked, equally perplexed. "I have absolutely no idea," Vex-9 admitted, "but he's about to fail spectacularly." On the simulated bridge, Marcus had connected the plasma conduits to the magnetic containment system, creating what was essentially a railgun using shipping containers as projectiles. It was completely against regulations, utterly reckless, and absolutely brilliant. The first makeshift projectile tore through the enemy's shield matrix like tissue paper. The second punched a hole clean through their primary hull. By the third shot, the simulated attackers were retreating in complete disarray. Vex-9's mandibles hung open in shock. In 40 years of military service, he had never seen anything quite so creative. The human had turned a cargo hauler into a weapons platform using nothing but spare parts and engineering ingenuity. "Sir," Krill 44 ventured, "should we run the next simulation?" "Yes," Vex-9 said slowly. "Yes, let's see what else this primitive can do." The second test placed Marcus in command of a supply depot under siege. Standard procedure called for barricading the facility and waiting for relief forces. Instead, Marcus studied the depot's inventory manifest and began redistributing resources in patterns that made no tactical sense whatsoever, until the enemy breached the outer perimeter and discovered that every corridor had been turned into a maze of improvised obstacles and booby traps. Motion sensors triggered automated loading mechs that hurled supply crates at intruders. Maintenance drones had been reprogrammed to release caustic cleaning chemicals. Even the cafeteria's food dispensers had been weaponized to launch scalding nutritional paste at anyone without proper authorization codes. The attacking force retreated after losing half their number to what could only be described as the galaxy's most dangerous obstacle course. Vex-9 was no longer laughing. The third simulation was a fleet engagement, 12 ships against 30. Marcus took one look at the tactical display and immediately began issuing orders that violated every principle of space warfare. He split his formation into impossibly small groups, abandoned defensive positions, and sent his fastest ships on what appeared to be suicide runs. The enemy commander, confident in his numerical superiority, moved to exploit the humans' obvious tactical blunders. His ships advanced in perfect formation, following centuries of proven military doctrine, which was exactly what Marcus had counted on. The first suicide run had actually been a precisely calculated insertion of electronic warfare pods behind enemy lines. The second group had deployed sensor scramblers that made accurate targeting impossible. The third had released clouds of metallic chaff that turned the enemy's own missiles against them. By the time the opposing fleet realized they'd been outmaneuvered, Marcus's remaining ships had repositioned themselves in a perfect crossfire formation. The simulation ended with the complete destruction of the enemy force at the cost of only 2 human vessels. In the observation booth, Vex-9 stared at the tactical replay in stunned silence. The human had just achieved a decisive victory using strategies that didn't exist in any military textbook. He'd turned conventional warfare on its head through sheer unconventional thinking. "Sir?" Krill 44's voice was barely a whisper. "The other candidates are requesting their turn at the simulations." Vex-9's 8 eyes remained fixed on the replay. "Cancel them." "Sir?" "Cancel all remaining tests. We have our candidate." Down in the testing bay, Marcus was removing his helmet and running a hand through his graying hair. The simulations had been intense, but he'd dealt with worse during his cargo running days. Asteroid fields, pirate attacks, equipment failures in deep space. Civilian life had its own challenges. "Well," he said to the empty room, "that was different." The door hissed open, and Vex 9 entered, his crystalline form catching the light as he moved. Marcus had seen Centaurians before, but never one this highly ranked. The commander's insignia alone probably cost more than Marcus made in a year. "Candidate Kane," Vex 9's voice held a note of grudging respect. "Your performance was adequate." Marcus raised an eyebrow. Coming from a Centaurian military commander, adequate was probably the equivalent of a standing ovation. "Thank you, sir. Does that mean I passed?" Vex 9's mandibles clicked in what Marcus hoped was amusement, rather than anticipation of his execution. "You did not pass, human. You shattered every expectation we had. Your methods were unorthodox, your tactics were unconventional, and your solutions were completely outside standard military doctrine." Marcus felt his shoulders slump. "So I failed." "On the contrary," Vex 9's voice carried a hint of what might have been admiration. "You succeeded where others would have failed catastrophically. Tell me, Kane, where did you learn such tactics?" Marcus shrugged. "I didn't learn them anywhere, sir. I just improvised. When you're hauling cargo through pirate-infested space lanes with nothing but a modified freighter and a skeleton crew, you learn to think outside the box. Or you die." "Indeed." Vex 9 studied the human with new interest. "And how do you feel about commanding something slightly larger than a cargo hauler?" "How much larger are we talking about, sir?" Vex 9's mandibles spread in what Marcus was learning to recognize as a smile. "Would a battlecruiser squadron suffice for a start?" Marcus blinked. "Sir, I think there might be some mistake. I'm not qualified to command a squadron. I'm barely qualified to command a lunch order." "Qualifications," Vex 9 said dismissively, "are overrated. Results, on the other hand, speak for themselves. You just defeated 3 separate tactical scenarios using methods that would make our finest strategists weep with confusion. The Galactic Defense Force needs commanders who can think differently, Kane. We have enough by-the-book officers. What we lack are problem solvers." The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. Marcus Kane, failed businessman and part-time cargo hauler, was being offered command of military vessels worth more than his entire home planet's gross domestic product. "Sir, with all due respect, are you absolutely certain about this? Because I'm pretty sure there are regulations against putting completely unqualified humans in charge of expensive military hardware." Vex 9's laughter was a sound like wind chimes in a thunderstorm. "Kane, in the past 3 hours, you have violated approximately 47 military regulations, ignored 12 tactical doctrines, and committed what most courts-martial would consider criminal negligence of proper procedure. And you achieved perfect mission success in every scenario." The commander leaned forward, all 8 eyes focusing on Marcus with laser intensity. "The galaxy is changing, Kane. Our enemies are adapting, evolving, finding new ways to challenge our established order. We need commanders who can adapt faster, evolve quicker, and find solutions that haven't been invented yet." Marcus felt a familiar sensation in his chest, the same feeling he'd gotten when facing down pirates with nothing but wit and determination. It was equal parts terror and excitement, the knowledge that he was about to step off a cliff with no guarantee of a soft landing. "When do I start, sir?" "Immediately. Your first assignment will be commanding the UES Phoenix, a heavy cruiser with a crew of 800. Your mission will be to escort a diplomatic convoy through the Outer Rim territories. Simple patrol duty, really." Nothing too challenging for your first command. Marcus nodded, trying to look confident despite the fact that his hands were already shaking. Understood, sir? Any special instructions? Vex 9's mandibles clicked again, and this time Marcus was certain it was amusement. Just one, Commander Kane. Try not to start any interstellar wars on your first week. I'll do my best, sir. As Marcus left the testing bay, he couldn't help but wonder what he'd gotten himself into. Command of a starship, responsibility for 800 lives, and a mission that was probably more dangerous than Vex 9 was letting on. Behind him, the Centaurian commander watched the humans' retreating form with something approaching anticipation. The Outer Rim assignment wasn't the simple patrol duty he'd described. Intelligence reports suggested increased activity from the Hegemony, the galaxy's most dangerous terrorist organization. If his suspicions were correct, Commander Kane would be facing his first real test much sooner than expected. But something told Vex 9 that the human would find a way to surprise them all once again. After all, he'd already proven that being labeled useless didn't mean what most people thought it meant. 3 weeks later, Commander Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the UES Phoenix, trying very hard not to look like he was completely out of his depth. The heavy cruiser's command center was a marvel of galactic engineering. Holographic displays flickered with real-time data, tactical stations hummed with barely contained energy, and his crew of 800 moved with practiced efficiency around him. His crew. The thought still made his stomach clench. Commander, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell approached from the communications station. She'd been one of the few humans selected alongside him, and her presence was the only thing keeping Marcus from complete panic. We're receiving updated orders from High Command. Marcus accepted the data tablet, scanning the encrypted message. The diplomatic convoy they were supposed to escort had been delayed indefinitely. Instead, they were being redirected to investigate suspicious activity in the Vega sector. Specifically, reports of missing cargo ships along the trade routes. Pirates? He asked, though something in his gut told him it wasn't that simple. Unknown, sir. Long-range sensors are detecting debris fields, but no distress signals. Whatever's happening out there, it's been thorough. Marcus nodded, studying the star charts. The Vega sector was a major shipping lane, heavily traveled and well-patrolled. For pirates to operate there successfully, they'd need either incredible luck or inside information. Neither option sat well with him. Set course for the Vega sector, maximum sustainable speed. And, Lieutenant? Sir? Have all department heads meet me in conference room A in 30 minutes. I want to know everything about our ship's capabilities that isn't in the official manual. Mitchell's eyebrows rose slightly. Everything, sir? Everything. If there's a way to turn our waste recycling system into a weapon, I want to know about it. As she departed to relay his orders, Marcus caught several crew members exchanging glances. He could practically hear their thoughts. Their new commander was either brilliant or insane, possibly both. The conference room filled quickly with department heads from across the ship. Chief Engineer Ramon Vasquez, a stocky man with perpetually grease-stained fingers. Tactical Officer Elena Brooks, whose reputation for precision was legendary even among humans. Dr. Amanda Cross from Medical, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. And a dozen others, all trying to size up their unconventional commander. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, I'm going to be direct with you. I have no idea what we're flying into, but I suspect it's going to be more dangerous than High Command is telling us. So I need to know, what can this ship do that isn't in the technical specifications? The room fell silent. Finally, Chief Vasquez cleared his throat. Well, sir, the Phoenix was originally designed as a research vessel before being converted to military use. The labs on Deck 12 still have fabrication equipment that could theoretically produce unconventional modifications, such as experimental ammunition, improvised electronic warfare devices, maybe even structural modifications if we had enough raw materials. Tactical Officer Brooks leaned forward. Sir, if I may ask, what exactly are you planning? Marcus smiled grimly. I'm planning for the worst-case scenario, Lieutenant, because in my experience, that's usually what you get. 2 days into their journey to the Vega sector, Marcus's pessimism proved justified. They dropped out of hyperspace to find a debris field spanning several cubic kilometers. What was left of 3 cargo haulers drifted in the void, their hulls torn open like tin cans. Sensor sweep complete, Commander, reported Science Officer Kim Park. No survivors detected. Weapon signatures are unusual. Define unusual. Energy patterns consistent with hegemony plasma cannons, but the precision is far beyond their normal capabilities. These weren't random pirate attacks, sir. This was surgical. Marcus felt ice form in his veins. The hegemony was a loose confederation of terrorist cells that had been plaguing the Outer Rim for decades. But they were typically crude in their methods, preferring intimidation over finesse. This level of tactical precision suggested something new. Commander! Communications Officer Lisa Zhang's voice cracked with tension. I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures inbound. 12? No, 15 contacts. The main display lit up with hostile indicators as ships materialized around them. Marcus recognized the angular, predatory designs immediately. Hegemony raiders, but these looked different. Cleaner, more advanced. Red alert! All hands to battle stations! Marcus's voice carried across the ship's intercom. Tactical. What are we looking at? Brooks's fingers flew across her console. 15 raiders, but they're not standard hegemony designs. These ships have been significantly upgraded. Enhanced shields, improved weapons, and they're moving in perfect formation. Perfect formation. That was the detail that made Marcus's blood run cold. The hegemony was known for many things, but military discipline wasn't one of them. Someone had been training them. Sir, Zhang called out, incoming transmission from the lead raider. On screen. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a figure that made several crew members gasp. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. Pale blue skin stretched over an elongated skull, and 4 arms gestured expressively as it spoke. Marcus had never seen this species before, which was concerning given his years traveling the trade routes. Greetings, Commander Kane, the being said in accented but perfect galactic standard. I am War Leader Thex of the Reformed Hegemony. Your reputation precedes you. Marcus kept his expression neutral despite his surprise. How did they know his name? War Leader Thex. I wasn't aware the hegemony had reformed into anything resembling organization. Thex's laugh was like grinding metal. Oh, but we have. You see, Commander, your little demonstration at the draft was quite illuminating. The galaxy has been watching your unconventional methods with great interest. The pieces clicked together in Marcus's mind with sickening clarity. Someone had been studying his tactics, learning from them, and teaching the hegemony how to fight like him. Flattering as that is, Marcus replied, I'm afraid I'll have to decline whatever invitation you're extending. Invitation? Thex's forearms spread wide in mock confusion. Oh, Commander, you misunderstand. This isn't an invitation. This is a demonstration. We've learned so much from your approach to warfare. Improvisation. adaptation, creative thinking, but we've improved upon your methods." The transmission cut, and immediately the hegemony ships began their attack. But instead of the chaotic assault Marcus expected, they moved with frightening coordination. 3 ships peeled off to flank the Phoenix, while the remainder maintained a perfect firing formation. "Evasive maneuvers," Marcus ordered. "Return fire with all available weapons." The Phoenix's guns roared to life, sending streams of coherent energy toward the attackers. But the raiders had anticipated this, their enhanced shields deflecting most of the damage while they continued their methodical approach. "Sir," Brooks called out, "their tactics. They're using modified versions of your own strategies from the draft simulations." Marcus watched the tactical display with growing horror. The enemy was using his own innovations against him, but they'd refined them, perfected them. It was like fighting himself, but with superior numbers and firepower. The Phoenix shuddered under multiple hits, her shields flickering dangerously. "Shield strength down to 60%, someone reported. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. "Weapons Array 2 is offline." Marcus gritted his teeth, his mind racing. The enemy expected him to fight like Marcus Kane from the draft. But those simulations had been tests, demonstrations of concept. Real combat was different. Real combat was messier. "All stop," he commanded suddenly. "Sir?" His helmsman looked confused. "You heard me. Full stop. Kill the engines." Brooks spun around from her station. "Commander, that's suicide. They'll overwhelm us." "No," Marcus said quietly, a plan forming in his mind. "They'll do exactly what I would do." "Chief Vasquez." "Sir? How quickly can you vent our entire reactor coolant system?" The engineer's eyes widened. "Sir, that would create a massive sensor shadow and disable our primary systems." "Exactly. Do it." "But sir, without coolant, we'll have maybe 10 minutes before reactor shutdown." "Then we'd better work fast. Brooks, prepare all torpedo tubes for manual launch. Zhang, I need you to transmit a general distress signal on all frequencies. Make it sound desperate." "That won't be difficult, sir," Zhang muttered. The Phoenix drifted to a halt as her engines went dark. Clouds of reactor coolant billowed out around the ship, creating a massive interference field that scrambled sensors and masked their energy signature. To the hegemony raiders, it looked like a catastrophic system failure. "They're approaching," Brooks reported, her voice tense. 15 ships in standard boarding formation. "Perfect. Wait for my signal." The enemy ships closed in, confident in their apparent victory. War leader Thex was probably already composing his victory speech. Marcus watched the tactical display as the raiders arranged themselves around the seemingly crippled Phoenix. "Sir," Vasquez's voice crackled over the intercom, "we've got maybe 6 minutes before total power failure. That's all we need. Brooks, are the torpedoes ready?" "All tubes loaded and targeted, sir, but without our targeting systems—" "We don't need targeting systems. Fire all torpedoes, spread pattern, maximum yield." The Phoenix unleashed every torpedo in her arsenal at point-blank range. The weapons tore through the surprised hegemony formation, catching them completely off guard. 3 raiders exploded instantly, while 4 more suffered critical damage. But Marcus wasn't finished. "Vasquez, emergency reactor restart. Zhang, broadcast the following message on all frequencies. This is Commander Kane of the UES Phoenix. Any hegemony forces still capable of receiving this transmission have exactly 60 seconds to surrender before I demonstrate why humans earned their reputation for creative problem-solving." The reactor hummed back to life, and the Phoenix's weapons charged with renewed energy. The surviving hegemony ships found themselves scattered and damaged, their perfect formation broken. "Sir," Brooks reported with barely concealed excitement, 8 raiders are requesting permission to surrender. The remaining 4 are attempting to retreat. Grant permission to the ones surrendering. As for the others—" Marcus smiled grimly. "Show them why it's a bad idea to copy someone else's homework without understanding the subject." The next few minutes were a masterclass in improvised warfare. Marcus used the debris from destroyed raiders as cover, turned the Phoenix's tractor beam into a weapon by hurling wreckage at fleeing enemies, and even managed to disable one ship by using their own sensor scramblers against them. When the smoke cleared, 12 hegemony raiders had been destroyed or captured. Only 3 had escaped, and they were badly damaged. War Leader Thex's face appeared on the screen one final time, his expression no longer confident. "This isn't over, Kane," he snarled. "The reformed hegemony has learned much from you. We will adapt." "I'm sure you will," Marcus replied calmly. "But here's the thing about copying someone else's style. You're always one step behind. Good luck with that." The transmission ended, and Marcus slumped back in his command chair. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of repaired systems coming back online. "Status report," he called out. "Minimal casualties, sir," Dr. Cross reported. "Some injuries from the initial attack, but nothing critical." "Damage report?" "Superficial hull damage and some system strain from the emergency restart," Vasquez added. "Nothing that can't be fixed." Marcus nodded, then activated the ship-wide intercom. "All hands, this is the commander. Today we faced an enemy that had studied our tactics, learned our methods, and tried to use our own innovations against us. They failed not because we were stronger or better equipped, but because we remembered something they forgot. Adaptation isn't just about copying what works. It's about understanding why it works and being ready to do something completely different when the situation changes." He paused, looking around at his bridge crew. "The galaxy labeled us useless in the draft. They said humans had nothing to offer the Galactic Defense Force. Today we proved them wrong. Not because we followed the rules, but because we wrote new ones." As the Phoenix set course for the nearest starbase to deliver their prisoners, Marcus reflected on the day's events. War Leader Thex had been right about one thing. The galaxy was watching, but what they'd see now wasn't just unconventional tactics or creative problem-solving. They'd see that humans didn't just adapt to challenges. They thrived on them. And somewhere in the depths of space, other enemies would be taking note. The reformed hegemony was just the beginning. Marcus Kane, the useless cargo hauler turned starship commander, had announced humanity's presence on the galactic stage in the most dramatic way possible. By winning a battle that should have been impossible to win. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. And that, Marcus thought with satisfaction, was exactly the point.